What up, though, everybody, and welcome to Lions Nation Unite. My name is Spencer Raxter. Lions Nation Unite is a platform created by Herman Moore to take different Lions content creators from all walks of life and bring them into one kind of hodgepodge melting pot to get great content. And obviously, this time of the year is especially crazy with the draft going around, everything popping off, free agency still in full swing, and the Detroit Lions making a lot of moves. We talked about they've already signed over 20 players in free agency. The draft is coming up. They're right on the pinnacle, and Lions fans really want to see what they're going to do to improve their chances of winning a Super Bowl next season. But first things first, smash that like button. Make sure you subscribe. Follow Lions Nation Unite on all different social media platforms, whether it be YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Get in there, tap in with Lions Nation Unite, and go get some merch. Go get some merch. We're going to do a merch giveaway here pretty soon on social, so make sure you guys follow and stay tuned for that. What up, though, Chrome? What up, though, Donkey Kong? Appreciate you guys tapping in. We are going to dive into Detroit Lions draft prospects, draft targets that they're looking at already in this draft. As you know, the Detroit Lions have the 28th pick in the NFL draft, but I don't think a lot of people expect the Detroit Lions to make a pick at number 28. If there's one thing we know about Brad Holmes, it's that he likes to move around. He doesn't like to stay put. Unless he's got Aiden Hutchinson or Penei Sewell falling in his lap, he likes to get his guy. He likes to get the guy that he thinks is going to be the biggest impact player in this draft and the biggest contributor to his team's success next year. So I would be extremely surprised if Brad Holmes stayed at 28, especially after getting some more ammo from the compensatory pick you got from Aaron Glenn. That could be something you could throw around and try to move up and get your guy. What up, though, Shift God? What up, Isaiah? Appreciate you guys tapping in. Make sure you smash that like button. But I need to see what the Lions are going to do here because this is such a one second. I'm doing a poll real quick. This is such a pivotal draft. This is such a pivotal draft for what the Lions have to do. Looking at their schedule next year, what they want to repeat what they did. Are they going to be the number one seed in the NFL next year or in the NFC next year? Probably not. The schedule is a lot tougher. Are they going to win 15 games next year? Probably not. The schedule is a lot tougher, but you need to help bolster, I think, the defensive side of the ball in this draft. I think everybody is kind of at that same level where they want to see them get an impact player, especially on that defensive line early in this draft. This draft being an extremely deep one, an extremely deep draft when you look at edge rushers and defensive linemen. There are going to be a lot of good players in that first round. The Detroit Lions can move around and try to get the guy that they really like. Isaiah Mims, see right here, he says, I pray we match a rookie with Hutch. And I just think that is exactly what they're trying to do. You look at Brad Holmes. What has Brad Holmes been trying to do over the past couple of years that is on record and is out there? He's been trying to get an edge rusher to pair with Aiden Hutchinson. Now, he got Zadarius Smith, but unfortunately, Aiden Hutchinson was hurt. But you look at what he's trying to get. He went after Daniil Hunter. The price was too high. He called about Max Crosby. Was never going to happen. He was aggressive in pursuit of Myles Garrett, not once but twice. Browns weren't going to move on from him. He knows that having that edge rush, having that guy that's going to kill the quarterback to go along with the guy you already got that's going to kill the quarterback is so important for this team and all teams in the NFL to have true success. So I agree with you. I think he's going to go after an edge rusher to put next to Aiden Hutchinson, who is going to be making $40 million a year very soon for the Detroit Lions on a 5-year rookie contract. So you can have him there. Forget about that. Brad Holmes has been talking about all of these contracts that he has to pay. He already paid Penei and Amon-Ra and Jared Goff. He's going to have to pay Kirby and Gibbs and Hutch and Sam Laporta and Brian Branch and Jameson Williams. Like, all of these picks, all of these great players that he's drafted, their bill is coming due. So getting a guy at the second most lucrative position in the NFL now in the edge spot on a 5-year rookie contract is invaluable to your team's success and the flexibility of your cap space going forward. Shift God OTC says Booker or Zabel, maybe even Donovan Jackson. So he's looking at Donovan Jackson's edge, but he's looking at interior offensive linemen, which I would not hate. I've been on record before. I think that interior offensive line is the second biggest need for this Detroit Lions team. I'd have to see who's still there for these edge prospects, man. There's so many good edge prospects that are going to be going in this first round that if the Lions get Gray Zabel or they get Booker, I'd be good with it unless they let some of these guys fall to the teams behind them. Like when we saw the ESPN mock draft where they got Gray Zabel, but then you had the Mikael Williams go to the Chiefs and Shamar Stewart go to the Commanders, and then the Eagles get James Pierce. I was like, dude, that sucks, man. Like I want one of those difference makers. I want one of those guys that's going to go out there and attack the quarterback. And Salty Pork Chop says, I keep hearing that this is a deep draft, and the same thing about Josh Pascal as draft, and it turned out to be a glorified rotational piece. And that's the second round. That's a guy in the second round that you got. That's why I think this top 5 to top 6, these guys that are going to go in the first round, these edge rushers are going to be difference makers. I truly believe that. And I think Brad Holmes believes that too. He's talked to a couple of them already that we're going to break down. Donovan Azaraku, you are a Detroit Lion. I love Donovan Azaraku. I would love that. I don't think he's the type of guy that they're going to go after. He's kind of undersized for that edge position. We know that the track record of Brad Holmes and this Detroit Lions team is they like the big body guys. They like the big, 6'5, 260, 270-pound guys on that edge spot. So Donovan Azaraku, although he's going to be a great player, I think he's going to be very good. I don't know if he's a guy that the Lions are truly going to target. I don't know if he's a guy in this draft that the Lions are going to go in there and invest such high capital in because he doesn't fit what they want to do with their defense. And maybe that changes under Kelvin Shepard. Maybe there's more flexibility for that. But even when you look at all of the edges that they've tried to put next to Aiden Hutchinson, all of these guys that they've paired with Aiden Hutchinson, the only one that's of that size and of that same ilk as Azaraku is James Houston, and it didn't last that long. Now, Azaraku's not as small as James Houston is, but he's closer to that than he is to a Marcus Davenport, which is the type of guy that they like. So we'll see what happens, but there are some rumblings, and these top 30 visits are starting to file in now for the Detroit Lions of guys that they're bringing in. They're sitting down, they're talking to, they're bringing to Detroit, and they're having conversations with a couple of them. Like you had Georgia linebacker Chaz Chambliss, you had UC Davis running back Lan Larson, and Maryland linebacker Ruben Hippolyte. Those aren't guys those are later round guys. Those are going to be glue pieces. Those are, special teams guys that you take a shot at. And I'd be fine if you can get a Georgia guy in the 6th round. Like, yeah, I'm cool with that. Those guys, don't worry about that. If they're going to draft them, those are going to be later round guys. But the 3 big name guys that they started with and then they had their top 30 visits with are at these positions of need when you look at edge and interior offensive linemen. We're going to start with Michigan edge Josiah Stewart. This is a guy that the Detroit Lions like. This is a guy that the Detroit Lions have brought in and sat down for a top 30 visit. And these are all courtesy of A to Z Sports. Shout out to our guy, Mike Payton. He does a great job and he keeps the list growing. So as they get more top 30 visits, as they bring in more guys that they want to sit down with, they have this list and it continues to stack up with players. But like I said, Josiah Stewart is one of the players that they've already brought in as that top 30 visit. And that's the thing for me is that's the kind of guy that I think they wouldn't like. That's he's a smaller guy. He's not small, but he's not the type of edge that they like to see. But I think if they're getting Josiah Stewart, they're going to play him in that Sam role. They're going to play him with Derek Barnes at that Sam spot because he is an elite pass rusher. He really is. Josiah Stewart has great instincts. He's got great bend, and he gets to the quarterback. This isn't a guy that they can put out there for 3 downs at defensive end in the NFL, I believe. I don't think that he has the body type or the skill set to do that. But if you put him at that Sam spot or a rotational linebacker, bring him off the edge like we saw them do with Derek Barnes a lot, what they like to do with Derek Barnes a lot, like we saw Trevor Nowaski and those guys fill in once Derek Barnes went down last year. Josiah Stewart really can make a difference being an extra rusher off of that edge for the Detroit Lions. He'd have to work on his coverage skills and he'd have to work on his containment because you need to contain running backs in this Lions offense. But if you go after Josiah Stewart in the 2nd round, he's not going to be the pick at 28. But if you go after him in the 2nd round or move down and try to get him, that's a guy that could be a real difference maker. seeing where he'd fit on this defense is the one thing that confuses me. Like I said, I already talked about how they don't really like the smaller guys. They don't like the undersized edges out there, but I think Josiah Stewart would play more he'd play more in that Sam role, and he'd play more on that rush linebacker spot. So we'll see. They obviously like him. They brought him in for a top 30 visit, and that's a guy that I could see being a second round pick for the Detroit Lions. I know Michigan fans are going to love to hear that, but when you look at where they are drafting in the first round, I think Josiah Stewart would be a pretty big reach if you go after him at 28. Another guy that they bring in that has been mocked to them at 28, a guy that is going to be on the board there, and he's one of the best players at his position in this draft. And I saw somebody mention it earlier in the chat. It was Shift God, Gray Zabel, North Dakota State offensive line. The Lions brought him in, and they have him as a top 30 visit. Now, this is a guy who would start right away. That's the caliber of player he is. If you draft him, you're expecting him to start right away because he is a mauler. Let me get his numbers real quick, but they like him. A lot of NFL scouts like him. And I would not be surprised to see him go in the first round. He's going to be one of these first guys off the board. He's a very versatile offensive lineman. He's 6'6", 312 pounds, ran a 5'4", 40, but with his size, the problem is the shorter arms. Like 6'6", 312, you're like, oh, that's a tackle. No, he's only got 32-inch arms, so he doesn't have the longest arms, but he fills more of that guard role than he does in the tackle spot. But what he can do when it comes to protecting the passer, man, is just a different level of technique, tenacity, and just overall talent. His footwork is insane. His hand speed, he doesn't get beat with hands. And when he gets his hands on you, they are just he's so nasty. You're not going to get around this guy. There are comparisons to Zach Martin from him. He's not as explosive, but with his timing, with his footwork, with his technique, you can see that he is ready to play in the NFL. He is ready to be a guy that will go there. You want to put him in a scheme where they run the ball very well, and it's more of a zone running scheme because like I said, he's not the most athletic guy. He's not. He's not the guy that's going to go out there and sprint out in front of these in front of these running backs and in front of these tight ends out in space and lead block for them. But when it comes to protecting the passer, you're not going to find a better interior offensive lineman in this draft than Gray Zabel. He is as good as it gets when it comes to stopping people from hitting the quarterback. Excuse me. His broad jump and his vertical jump is what really turned heads at the draft. Like he had the 5'3" 40, which I know seeing the offensive lineman run sub 540s is really what gets you, but he had a 36.5-inch vertical jump and he had a 111 centimeter broad jump like that, or 11 foot broad jump. Like the guy is he is a specimen, man. Like to be 6'6", to have an 11-foot broad jump and a 36-inch vertical jump, you got to be doing something right. He started the final 36 games of his career just being consistent and durable. And that is something that the Lions look for. They like guys that are going to be consistent and durable. He is a beast. He is a beast. And if they go Gray Zabel in that first round, I would not hate it at all. I think that is a guy that would plug and play immediately be a guy that starts on your offensive line, whoever you are. He is a guy that you're drafting to plug in there and be your guy in the interior offensive line. And we know right now, excuse me, with this I don't want to say up in the air with the interior offensive line, but we know they want to improve on that guard spot. We know they like Graham Glasgow for his versatility and moving around and doing different things in that IOL, but I think they want a legitimate starting guard that they're going to have there for the next 5 years. And so if they can get a guy like Gray Zabel or Booker in there, I'm not going to be mad at it, depending on who they pass on to get. If all those edges are gone, if there's if you're going to reach for like Nick Scorton in the first round or get a Gray Zabel, I say you get a Gray Zabel personally. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Frank is getting older. Taylor Decker is getting older. Graham Glasgow is getting older. They drafted Christian Mahogany and Giovanni Manu last year. I think Manu is going to be, Taylor Decker's heir apparent. I think Christian Mahogany is going to be a starter on this team next year. But Gray Zabel is a guy that obviously they like. They brought him in on a top 30 visit. He is a guy that would fit on this team very well. We'll see. We'll see. Rogue Blue says, I doubt the Texans pass on Zabel. That's a good point. We saw the Texans kind of strip their offensive line, and they need to rebuild that back up. And how do you do that when you have so much talent offensively and defensively that you're trying to keep in contracts and keep on your team is through the draft. So I would not be surprised if the Texans went offensive line, and Gray Zabel could be that pick there. Shout out Gun Guy, take your pants off. Shift God says, Yates has us taking Harmon out of Oregon. I'm not a big fan of his. If that was the pick for us, I wouldn't hate it, but it would be disappointing. He can't finish a lot of his tackles. I know Derek Harmon very well. Obviously, he was at Michigan State before he went to Oregon. He has always had that kind of pass rushing twinge to his game, even at Michigan State when he was a bigger body guy. Him and Simeon Barrow were insane at Michigan State. That interior defensive line was really the only good thing about Michigan State's defense a couple years ago. And if Derek Harmon is there, if he's a guy that they decide to draft, I would not be mad at it. And I could definitely see why they would do it, because he is a kind of a tweener as well. He is kind of like a Levi Onwuzurike, to where he can play edge because of his size, because of the build that he is. Let me find it just so I can get the numbers correct. But yeah, 6'5", 310 pounds, and we saw him lose some weight at Oregon, where he got down to like 270 or something like that, and then bulked back up a little bit for the draft. But this is a guy at 6'5", 6'4", that you can play inside. You can move him outside if you really want to. He has the acumen. He's got the pass rushing ability to do that. He's got the 84-inch wingspan, 34 and 3/8-inch arms. He ran a 4.9 40 in the draft. He really can do it all. Like, he can. I mean, he is a guy that is a pass rushing special. I don't want to say specialist, but what he does best is get to the passer from the interior. So he would be your 3-tech kind of guy. I don't know if you're looking to pair that with Aleem McNeil. Maybe he could put on some extra weight, put on some extra pounds, and kind of be the replacement for DJ Reader. That's not the type of player he is, though. I would much rather have Kenneth Grant than Derek Harmon personally. But he is going to be a 3-tech guy more than he is that nose tackle or that big body defensive lineman, which is what I think the Detroit Lions want. They have Aleem McNeil. They obviously signed Mekhi Wingo, or they drafted Mekhi Wingo. They like him as a 3-tech and a bounce around guy. I don't know if Derek Harmon is the type of defensive tackle they'd go after in the first round, because they're looking for more of the big body guy. They wanted Broderick Martin to be that guy. They wanted Broderick Martin to be the replacement. He's a nothing burger. Roy Lopez, he's only on a 1-year deal. DJ Reader is on the last year of his contract. I don't know if Derek Harmon is the type of guy they'd bring in to fit in that defensive line, because I think they're looking for more of the big body guy to replace those guys. But Derek Harmon is he's a good prospect, man. He like I said, his measurables, his size, his pass rushing ability, they all look like Chris Jones. That's what they look like to me. That's his size, his ability, his get off, his moves, his bag when it comes to pass rushing. It reminds me of Chris Jones. It really does. Klotz was telling you about a guy, Tyler Williams, defensive tackle, OSU. He has a beast, talks his shit too. Yeah, he's going to be a mid-round pick. So whether it's second or third round, I wouldn't mind that either. I think they're going to address the defensive line, and they're going to do it early in this draft. But okay, Gray Zabel, he was a top 30 visit for the Detroit Lions. Josiah Stewart was a top 30 visit for the Detroit Lions. And then the one that got all Lions fans talking, the one that got my boy Easy all jittery, they brought in Shamar Stewart. They brought him into Detroit. They sat him down. They had a top 30 visit with him. Shamar Stewart will not be available for the Detroit Lions at 28. I think he is going to be a top 4 edge off of the board. I think it's going to go Abdul Carter, Mike Green. and then maybe Mikael Williams, then Shamar Stewart. But it gets really close to the top. I think James Pierce is the second best edge in this draft, but because of all of the stuff that's been coming out about his personality and stuff like that, he's going to fall down. But Shamar Stewart will be the third or fourth edge off of the board in my mind. This is a guy that Detroit Lions fans don't like him, or some Detroit Lions fans don't like him. Hi, Lisa. How you doing? Thanks for joining us. Make sure you guys smash the like button and subscribe. Lions Nation Unite. But a lot of Lions fans don't like the prospect of Shamar Stewart because of the lack of production that he's had in college. He's only had 1.5 sack every year. He's had 1.5 sacks. And you look at Texas A&M, and that could be a byproduct to their system. That could be a byproduct of what they like to do. They like to contain the pocket and make sure they're keeping the quarterback in there. Because you look at Nick Scorton, and he had 13, or how many sacks did he have at Purdue? Let's see. At Purdue, Nick Scorton had 10 sacks in 2023, and then he comes to Texas A&M and he only has 5, because that's not what they asked you to do in Texas A&M. All of these guys on the defensive line, when they went to Texas A&M, they put on more weight. They like to be kind of maulers in the middle, and they didn't really want them selling out to get to the quarterback. But Nick Scorton is the type of guy that Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell absolutely love. He had a perfect RAS score. A perfect RAS score. He is one of the best athletes in this draft class. 6'5", 270 pounds, ran a 4.5 40, has an 83-inch wingspan, 34 and 8-inch arms, 40-inch vertical, 13-foot broad jump. This guy is an absolute freak, dude. You know, he's coming out of South Florida, and you guys know that hotbed of NFL talent in South Florida, man. Those guys are different. This guy is going to be something special. Like, it's the type of athleticism that he displayed at the combine was like Myles Garrett-esque. I'm not saying he's Myles Garrett. I'm not saying he's going to be Myles Garrett, but he's in that level of athlete. He really is. He is probably pound for pound the most athletic player in this draft class. It's either him or T-Mac. And I love this kid. If the Detroit Lions want to move up, which is what I think they're going to do. I've said this before. I think Brad Holmes wants to pair Aiden Hutchinson with an edge rusher for the next 5 years on a rookie deal. I think that the parallels of this draft class and the Detroit Lions team from last year to this year are extremely, extremely similar. You look at what they did last year in the draft class. Last year was extremely deep with cornerbacks, right? The draft was extremely deep with cornerbacks. The biggest need for the Detroit Lions last year was cornerback. Brad Holmes moved up out of his spot to go get his guy off the board in Terrion Arnold and get his cornerback. This year, it's extremely deep with edge rushers. The number one need for the Detroit Lions team is edge rusher. I believe that Brad Holmes is going to use that compensatory pick he got for losing Aaron Glenn, move up to anywhere from 18, I would say anywhere from 17 to 20. I think it's 17 to 22. He's going to move up to that range, and he's going to get his guy. And it's starting to look like Shamar Stewart could be that guy. And Rogue Blue says he has the same build. Yeah, he's a freak. Like, he's one of the guys that you look at when you walk by him, and they're like, wow, like, that dude is nasty. Like I said, 5'4", 40 at 270 pounds with a 1.5 10-yard split, 40-inch vertical, 12 or 11-foot broad jump, dude. This guy is a freak, man. A freak. So I would love to see them get Shamar Stewart. They're gonna have to trade up for him though, if they want to get him. I highly doubt he is going to fall to the Detroit Lions at 28. I think with what he is bringing to the table, with what NFL GM saw in him in the combine, and just overall on his measurables, he's going to be a guy that falls off the board pretty fast. And we know that Brad Holmes loves these athletic freaks. We know the RAS score is extremely important for Brad Holmes, and just that raw athletic ability is something that he looks towards. And bringing in a guy like Nick Scorton, when you have a guy like Casey Rogers as your defensive line coach, he's going to get freaky with it. Like, we talk about what Casey Rogers has done over there in Tampa Bay with having a top 5 defensive line pretty much every single year that he has been the defensive line coordinator for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and all of the different walks of life and players that he's seen when it goes to interior offensive line, we were talking about Vita Vea, Kalaji Kansi, and then you go outside, JPP, Yaya Diaby, Golston, all of these guys that they've had in that edge spot and on that defensive line for Tampa Bay, and he has used them. What is this? No disrespect, but quit spreading fake news, please. We can't even line up normal with Mahogany. We lost Zeitler. There's no reason to equally important to get a starting right guard. What fake news am I spreading? I don't know. Yeah, so I think that you look at this guy and his athleticism and his ability to play different spots and to move around will be extremely important for what they want to do. And he can bulk up or he can slim down. Like he bulked up a little bit to play at Texas A&M, and then he slimmed down to get to the combine. So I think that them bringing in two edge players in their top 30 visits. Like I said, they've had top 30 visits. One was a linebacker from Georgia. He's going to be a late round guy. One was a running back from UC Davis. He's going to be a late round guy. One was a linebacker from Maryland. He's going to be a late round guy. Then they brought in Gray Zabel, the offensive lineman, and they brought in two edge prospects in Shamar Stewart and Josiah Stewart, Shamar Stewart and Josiah Stewart. Maybe they just like the last name Stewart, but I just think that this is something that they are going to attack. This is something that they've shown that they want to attack. And I think it's something that they need to attack because you look at their edge rotation next year. Josh Pascal's on the last year of his deal. Marcus Davenport signed to a 1-year deal. Levi Onwuzurike is on a 1-year deal. They don't Al-Quadin Muhammad on a 1-year deal. The only edge rusher that they have on contract after next season is Aiden Hutchinson. So I do believe that they're going to pair those guys. The narrative that edge is the number one need and right guard isn't equally important. Well, first of all, Zach, that's not fake news. It's an opinion. Fake news, opinions aren't fake news. I believe that edge is the number one position of need for the Detroit Lions. And like I said, guard is important. Guard is a spot that you need. If you believe that guard is the most important, that's your thought process. That's your opinion. It's not spreading fake news, dude. Relax. But like I said, seeing these top 30 visits, two of them being edge rushers and one of them being offensive line, that's where they're going to go. I think that's where everybody knows they're going to go. I think that's what everybody knows the top of their board. The top of my board for the Detroit Lions need number one is edge rusher, number two is interior offensive lineman, and then number three is safety because I do think that they're going to need some safety depth after losing both Ife Melifonwu and then what's his name? I can't remember. Oh, Brandon Joseph. They got Mo Norris as their third safety right now. I don't know if that's what they're going to feel comfortable with going into the season. I could see them getting a safety in day 2 in the draft and being a guy that they bring along. But when you look at the edge pool, man, this draft towards the top is going to be great. There is a plethora of talent available for the Detroit Lions for that edge spot. Do I disagree with what? Do I disagree that they need guards? No, I said they need guards. Everybody knows they need a guard. I can trust Mahogany for sure. I believe that Graham Glasgow and Christian Mahogany are going to be your starting guards going into next season. And you re-signed Yodi as a depth piece, and that's good, but you're still going to draft somebody for sure. We have pick 60, plenty of guards available there. Absolutely. And even at 28, like I said, I know Zach is freaking out and calling fake news that the Lions need an edge. Apparently the Lions don't need an edge, and that's fake news. But if they get Gray Zabel or Booker at 28, I'm not going to freak out. Depends on who's there. But if all those edges are gone and you can go and get the best interior offensive lineman at 28, you absolutely do it. Do you think Vaki will get some run at safety, says Chris Bird? It's very possible. I don't know. I don't know where they're going to use Vaki. Obviously, they love him in special teams. He can play safety. He can play running back. They re-signed Craig Reynolds, so maybe he's not going to get the running back snaps, and maybe they're leaning more towards playing him in that safety spot. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. I think he's their Swiss Army knife, and they're going to move him around and do a lot of different things with him. But this edge pool, man, like I said, the parallels, it's just the writing is kind of on the wall there for me with the parallels between what happened last year and what's going to happen this year, and the depth of the draft last year being cornerback and the depth of the draft this year being in that edge spot. And I think to To think that Brad Holmes is going to stay put at 28, I don't know. I don't know. I think that he is going to move up. I truly do. He likes to get his guy. He likes to go up and get a difference maker, get his guy, and bring him in. So I think that he is going to be aggressive in this draft because he knows that this team is not in need of a 7-player draft class where they all come in and no, they are in need of a couple impact players at a couple specific positions to take them to the promised land, really. Like they are a favorite to win the Super Bowl. They're going to have the top 5 odds in the NFL to win the Super Bowl. And there's a reason for that. It's because they have one of the best rosters when healthy in the National Football League. So I expect them to bolster that with a player here or there. And Brad Holmes has shown that he will move up and get his guy. He's done it multiple times, and I think that's something that he's going to do. Um, Craig Hogg says, I do like Stewart. Every mock I have done has Stewart going top 15. Yeah, he is going, like I said, he is going to be the 3rd or 4th edge rusher off the board. And, Abdul Carter is going to be a top 3 pick. And then I think Mike Green is going to be in the top 10. And then you look after Mike Green and Abdul Carter, I think it's Mikael Williams and Shamar Stewart that fall into who's next. So I would not be surprised to see Brad Holmes to trade up close to 15. I don't know if he'll get in the top 15, but I could see, like I said, anywhere from 17 to 20 to go get his guy. So he is going to look at the guy that falls, and I think he's going to pounce on that dude. And per the top 30 visits, they like Shamar Stewart. You can't say that the Detroit Lions don't like this isn't fake news saying that they like Shamar Stewart because they brought him in to Detroit for a visit. They also brought in Gray Zabel to Detroit for a visit and Josiah Stewart. So those are all guys that are going to be on their board. Those are all guys that have the potential of being there. Josiah Stewart, I see more as a day 2 pick if that's what you go. But that is kind of the contingency. There's also the thought process of the second day edges. There are a lot of guys that or not second day, the second round edges that there are a lot of guys that are going to be there. When you look at Jared Ivey, that's a guy I really like in the second round. Another guy that has an insane RAS score. He's kind of a Josh Pascal clone personally. But that's what they like. Those are the types of guys they like. And so if you could get him out there on the edge and have him to pair with Aiden Hutchinson for 4 years, that's important. You have guys like Josiah Stewart in the second round. Jack Sawyer is going to be a 2nd or 3rd round pick. Both of those guys from uh, Ohio State are not going to be 1st round picks. So there are going to be a plethora of edge rushers to get in the second round, but I think the drop off from those like top 6 guys that we talk about, those top 6 edge rushers, 2 guys in the second round are going to be crazy. Hoping for James Pierce Jr. or Donovan Ozuriku at 28. Listen, I'm not sure that either of those are really realistic personally. The James Pierce Jr. stuff, what I think James Pierce Jr. is the second best edge rusher in this draft class. I think his raw ability, his bend, how he gets to the passer, how he goes after guys, I think he is the second most talented edge rusher in this draft. But it's the off the field stuff, man. It's what it is. And I saw the Detroit Lions pass on Jalen Carter because his off the field issues. I cannot see them getting James Pierce Jr. It's just not what they do. Donovan Ozuriku, I would love that too. But again, he's a smaller guy. Let me pull up his stats. I think he's like 240, 250, something like that. Ozuriku. Craig Hogg said, bro, I'm gonna be honest. Been watching you for a while on different shows. You're doing great, brother. Yeah, I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it. I'm just doing it. I'm just doing what I love, man. So that's what it's all about. I appreciate you for the support. Craig Hogg again says, what do you think about Donovan Jackson in the second? I don't know much about him. Donovan Jackson, again, one of those second round guys that stands out a little bit, and he is long. He's got the build that they like to go after. So I would not be surprised if they look at Donovan Jackson if they decide to go offensive line or a random pick in the first round. But yeah, Donovan Ozuriku, I just can't see it happening. 6'2", 250, 4'6". He is a pass rush specialist, really. His run defense, it wasn't bad, at Boston College. He was good, but it's different when you're going up against, teams that Boston College is playing and against NFL offensive linemen. He is very technically sound. He has an extremely deep bag when you look at Donovan Azaraku when it comes to pass rushing moves, but I just can't see the Lions drafting an edge player that's under 250 pounds. I can't. 6'2", 250 is not the type of guy that they like to go after, unfortunately. So Donovan Azaraku might be a great pick. I I could see the Eagles getting him at 32. He fits their scheme. He fits what they like to do. I don't think the Detroit Lions are even going to look at Donovan Azaraku personally. Um, I'm just afraid of missing an O lineman. We have a rotation of guys I trust to play defensive end. We have a rotation of guys that I trust to play guard, and they're under contract for longer than. Like I said, we only Aiden Hutchinson is the only edge piece that's under contract after this year. The offensive line, it's much easier to find a good offensive lineman later in the draft than it is to find a good edge rusher. Look at Christian Mahogany. Christian Mahogany was a 6th-round pick. Like I expect them to dress offensive line, and I think Tate Ratledge is a guy in the 2nd or 3rd round that the Detroit Lions could go after that Lions fans would really like. I think they're gonna get it. They're gonna get an offense. Don't be worried about that. Like they're not gonna miss. They're gonna get their offensive linemen. They've already talked about Dan Campbell talked about the guard rotation the other day, and you could see Giovanni Manu at guard. You could see the guy we draft at guard. So expect them to get a guard for sure. Like I said, I think it's the 2nd biggest need on this team, and where you're at in the draft, there's going to be a lot of good ones available. They're not going to miss on a guard. They're going to get a guy for sure. I know Brad will trade up and get the guy he thinks he needs to get him. Edge more than likely will be the pick. Yeah, I mean, like I said, with how the draft is looking, it's going to shape out the level of talent and the position of need. I would be very surprised if they did not get an edge in the first 2 rounds. Personally, I think that says that's why I don't trust a 6th-round pick. I trust Levi, Pascal, or Davenport to be more likely to play at a high level. I mean, if that's where you're going, just off of where he was drafted, that you don't trust him, that's fine. I've seen it. Like he showed us. Christian Mahogany's a dude. He is a dude for you. He is going to be very good. He's going to play at an extremely high level. He showed us last year in both guard spots that he could step in and play at an extremely high level. So I expect him to go out there and take care of business. But they do need to address it. I'm not poo-pooing the guard spot. They need to. I think it's more of why I want them to get an edge rusher rather than a guard in the first round is because I think you're good with interior offensive line right now. Obviously, going forward with Frank getting older and Graham getting older, you want to address that position. But with the edge spot, I think they need an impact player right now. I think they need an impact player at edge right now. I like Marcus Davenport when he's healthy. I can't trust Marcus Davenport to be healthy. Levi Onwuzurike, he's not going to be playing a lot of edge snaps to begin the year, especially with Ali McNeil out. He is going to be your starting defensive tackle next year, with Ali McNeil presumably missing the beginning of the season. Obviously, that's not confirmed or anything, but I'd be surprised if Ali McNeil didn't start the season on the PUP list. But I think you need an edge right now, and I think the defensive line rotation is a lot more important. We see these teams that are winning Super Bowls. We see these teams that are making deep runs in the playoffs. They have a well of talent at that edge spot and at that defensive line spot where they can rotate guys in and take care of business. And right now, I like Wingo. We'll see what he is when he comes. Obviously, it was a very small sample size before his injury, but I thought he showed some very capable. He showed he was very capable at that spot. Sorry, brain fart. I think he's going to go in there and be a guy. We don't know how long he's going to be or how long it's until he's back from injury. We don't know what we're going to get out of Marcus Davenport. If you expect Marcus Davenport to play over 12 games next year, that's a big ask. I don't think he's ever done that in his career. So uh I don't like going into a season where I expect the Detroit Lions to be playing, contending, and winning a Super Bowl to be like Marcus Davenport. I'm good with that. Um, I like Josh Pascal, I do, but again, this is the last year of his contract. Al Muhammad, As much of the flashes that he showed, he is a practice squad guy. So I'd rather see them bring in a guy, like I said, Aiden Hutchinson is going to make $40 million at least a year. Um, he is going to he might be the highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL when he gets his contract. I don't know if he'll go that route. I think he'll be somewhere in between Garrett and Crosby. I don't know if he'll be like, I got to make more than Myles Garrett. I don't see him being that type of guy. I think he'll be somewhere in between Garrett and Crosby, so right around $40 million a year. You need to pair him with a rookie. You have to. Because if you want production, if you want high-level talent at that spot, you're not going to be able to pay for it. You're not going to be able to bring in a different guy after paying Aiden Hutchinson his money. So putting a guy next to him, it would be awesome. Manu is a projected tackle. They moved up for him for a reason. I like Giovanni Manu a lot. I think Giovanni Manu is going to be a very, very good player and on this team. Dan Campbell talked about him playing some. Oh, let's see. Let me see if this is still in here.
With Graham, maybe didn't finish the season the way he liked. He was battling through some things. What's your confidence level that Graham can rebound 25?
Yeah, well, look, Graham, we know where Graham is at. Every year, certainly, you play that position, and it's a year later, But Graham's somebody that we still value because he's got versatility, and look, he did. He started the whole season, other than, whatever that was, game that we let him recover from injury at guard, but he can also play center. I think, people forget that some man, he can do an excellent job at center, as a matter of fact, So I think there's things that he brings to us that are not always easy to find. So yeah, we have confidence in him. And there again, the fact that he can play all the positions, man, that lets you breathe easy.
Do you envision him going back to right guard this year?
I don't know. I don't know. That's a thought, man. We've talked about that. Do you go back to right, and is it Mahogany left? Is it somebody we drafted? You're going to do your best to let these guys compete and see where they're at. I mean, do we try Manu at guard? That's a thought. So we're going to try to, we're going to try to let these guys compete a little bit and move them around and see what's right, see where we're at. But it's not going to be set in stone.
How much yard did Manu play?
So there is Dan Campbell saying that, and like I said, that him talking about Manu there at guard was something I really liked, because this guy Giovanni Manu is an absolute freak. Like his size, his speed, his athleticism. He can play any spot on the offensive line just because his raw athletic talent. So if they want to get him in there guard, he was taking snaps at guard last year. I would love that. Brendan DeWitt says Josh Pascal has severely underperformed as a second round pick, as expecting anything from Davenport is nuts. Listen, has Josh Pascal lived up to being a second round pick? Probably not. I'm not going to hear and argue that. I like Josh Pascal. I like what he does. I think he is one of the best edge rushers when it comes to playing the run in the NFL. But when it comes to getting to the passer, he definitely hasn't lived up to that second round pick status. And yet, Davenport, you're rolling the dice with Davenport every time he steps on the field. So that's why I think if you bring in a rookie, that provide, and they're going to, like I said, they're going to get a rookie edge rusher and a rookie offensive lineman, and I think it's going to be the first two picks of their draft. So you want to split hairs on which one you need more, do whatever you want, but I think bringing in a high-level rookie in that edge rusher room will be a guy that is extremely important for the continuity and kind of just something you can rely on. Like, you can rely on Josh Pascal to be solid. You can rely on him to be solid. You can't rely on Marcus Davenport for anything. You bring in a rookie that can be a playmaker to spice it up a little bit. What about Levi? Levi is going to be your starting defensive tackle next year. Like, Ali McNeil is going to Ali McNeil is not going to start the season healthy. He's probably going to have to miss the first couple weeks of the season because of his injury, maybe even be on that PUP list. So until week 4 or 5, you're probably going to be without Ali McNeil. So Levi Onwuzurike is going to have to be your starting 3-tech next to DJ Reader. Right now in the edge rusher position, you have Aiden Hutchinson, you've got Marcus Davenport, Josh Pascal, Al-Qadim Muhammad. And then they like to move Wingo around. But Levi is going to be playing a vast majority of his snaps, at defensive tackle, especially to start the season. So, and I think that Levi, I don't really want to see him at edge, even when Aleem's back, because having that 3-tech you can rotate is so important. And again, he's a guy that deals with injuries too. Ali McNeil is a guy that deals with injuries. I don't want those guys playing out of position just to get bodies out there. I'd rather have a body out there that I know that you're going to have, and that being a rookie. So, we'll see. We'll see. Obviously, it is all speculation season right now, and nobody really. Brad Holmes could go up there. He could draft a fucking wide receiver. Excuse my French. And we would never think twice about it. I mean, some people would freak out, but I think Brad Holmes attacks the trenches and he attacks them aggressively in this draft. We're gonna see who he likes, but again, based on how he drafts, based on what he does, I think Brad Holmes is not going to stay put at 28. I think he's going to move up. And as of right now, again, per A to Z Sports, per Mike Payton, our guy, the 3 guys that you'd look at in the first 2 rounds that they've had top 30 visits with are Michigan edge rusher Josiah Stewart, North Dakota State offensive line Gray Zabel, and Texas A&M edge rusher Shamar Stewart. And out of those 3 guys, I like Shamar Stewart the most. You'd have to move up to get him. You'd have to move up close to 15 if you want to get him. Like I said, if Brad sees Michael Williams or Shamar Stewart fall past 15, I think he picks up the phone, and I think he goes out and he gets one of those guys. But we'll see. We'll see. Obviously a lot to do, a lot of time still. Draft coming up though. More of these top 30 visits are going to keep piling in for the Detroit Lions, and they're going to tip their hand a little bit. And remember, outside of the top 30 visits at the combine, they met with Mike Green, they met with Nick Scorton, they met with Jack Sawyer, they met with Savion Jones, they met with Jihad Campbell, like they met with Kenneth Grant. So there are a lot of guys that they like and a lot of guys that they're looking at this defensive line. I don't think anybody will argue that the 2 most important needs for the Detroit Lions are defensive line and offensive line. So expect to see some big uglies off the board early for the Detroit Lions, and I expect an edge rusher to be that first round pick for them. Will it be a Nick Scorton? Are they going to reach for a Nick Scorton at 28? If that's what it is, I'd rather go Gray Zabel or Booker at 28 than a Nick Scorton personally, but I really want to get Shamar Stewart. I'm kind of sold on Shamar Stewart, and I think the Lions love him because of his athleticism, his traits, and his ability. Having a guy like Casey Rogers as your defensive line coach will definitely help you mold some of that raw athleticism into a real force. And you get a guy like that getting one-on-ones all day because Aiden Hutchinson's on the other side of him. Some good things are going to happen, but that's going to do it for me today. Appreciate you guys tapping in. Make sure you smash that like button, subscribe, follow Lions Nation Unite on all different social media platforms, whether it be Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, all that good stuff. We're going to be doing some giveaways for merch soon, so tap in. Go to lionsnationunite.com. You can get some merch. Ton of great stuff in there. Draft season coming up, so make sure you guys stay tuned. We're going to have a lot of great coverage for you. Obviously, we got our guy Scott Bischoff. He's going to break down a lot of these draft picks. I think that this is speculation season, like I said, but this is what we love, man. We love to plant our flag. We love to go after our guys. And now with Brad Holmes, I'm basically comfortable with anything that he decides to do in the draft. I'm not going to question Brad Holmes and his drafting acumen right now because he's proven that more likely than not, he's going to get you an all-pro. When Brad Holmes walks up to that draft board in the first or second round, more often than not, he's going to get you an all-pro level player. So I think that continues, but I think it's going to be edge. And I really like that they had their top 30, brought him into Detroit, sat him down, Shamar Stewart, top 30 visit. If he falls past 15, I think Brad Holmes goes up and gets him. If Shamar Stewart falls past 15 in this NFL draft, or Mikael Williams falls past 15 in this NFL draft, I think that Brad Holmes will use that pick that he got for losing Aaron Glenn, that compensatory pick, move up and get his guy. He's done it before. He likes his guys. When he sees his guy, he goes and get him. I think he does that again. Instead of a cornerback or a wide receiver like he did with J-Mo or Terrion, it's going to be an edge rusher. I think Brad Holmes moves up anywhere between 17 and 20 and gets his guy. Appreciate you guys tapping in. One Pride Worldwide. Let's go, Lions. Shout out Brent DeWitt. Shout out Lisa. Shout out Zach. Shout out Rogue Blue. Appreciate all you guys tapping in. We'll see you guys later. This has been Lions Nation Unite. I am Spencer Raxter. Peace.